ancestors would often say, only the most broken people can be great leaders.
Introducing Namor was really an opportunity to introduce another sovereign ruler of a group of people. He shows up representing Talokan.
He's coming for the surface world.
In Marvel Publishing, Namor was one of the first superheroes, frankly.
They called him Kukulkan, the feather serpent god.
Namor loves his people, and he's gonna protect them, because to be a ruler, you have to serve the people. Talokan has a deep meaning for me. It's part of my personal heritage as a Mexican, as an inhabitant of Mesoamerica. Finally, I could find a more powerful representation of my culture with dignity and respect.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to my review of Black Panther, and thank you for everybody who's following this channel. Please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a lot, and thank you for supporting the channel, guys. Now let's kick this off, an in-depth review which follows T'Challa, who after the death of his father T'Chaka, the king of Wakanda, he returned home to an isolated, technologically advanced city, but he decides to open up the country to the world. In this film, we see the repercussions of that decisions by T'Challa, and it being a double-edged sword. Now, did he make the right decision or wrong decision? Only time will tell. But we start this movie where T'Challa dies of a disease that his sister Shuri believes could have been cured by the heart-shaped herb. Of course, they don't have any of the herb left. Shuri's been attempting to synthetically recreate the herb after it was destroyed by Killmonger. But this is unsuccessful. Much like Tony Stark, though, she's always believed in technology rather than the faith of the spirit of the gods. Now, I want to talk about her concern in this movie. This is her movie. She's a young, intelligent, strong-willed, brave, and heroic character. People look at T'Challa's Black Panther, and what they don't realize is most of what he was designed by Shuri. Sure, he had the herb, but without the tech, the Black Panther wouldn't have been bulletproof or had those kinetic blasts or even the claws. So Shuri made all of that. So it's fitting that, like in the comics, she steps up to the table and takes the reins from her brother as their protector. But more on that later. While everyone that will see this movie will hopefully appreciate Shuri's genius and relevance, it is many of the black girls in this movie that have never really shined in the MCU as role models that will help this film succeed and move on. And one of those is an MIT student named Riri Williams. Yes, the school that Ned and MJ from Spider-Man got into, but Peter Parker didn't. And she's the MacGuffin of this movie, as she creates a new vibranium detector machine which the CIA use on an expedition to potentially find vibranium deposits underwater. It's here where we first see the entire search team is attacked and killed by Namor and his blue-skinned, water-breathing Talokan people. And some of the abilities they have, guys, using, wow, I mean, some of the Banshee powers they have with their voices to mind control people, that was just awesome. I loved that. Now, originally, they were Atlanteans, but Marvel felt that DC Comics had already got out there with Aquaman, so they used the Mayans instead, which is a great concept and change. In fact, all of the ideas in the script and the acting worked really well in this movie. I cannot knock the script at all. There's an explanation for nearly everything in this film, which I felt quite refreshing. I didn't really question much after this movie because Ryan Coogler has covered it. Remember, guys, for such depth, Ryan Coogler has made less than 4 movies in his entire career. He's still in his infancy as a filmmaker. And to follow up on what was the most successful black action movie of all time in a Black Panther, with this, is a remarkable feat and achievement in itself. The acting, the pacing and directing is all spot on, so well done Ryan Coogler for that. This film shows that greed is a common and inevitable part of human nature, and countries hold different attitudes towards greed. It's there we find out that at the start of the film that many countries have been planning to get their hands on that juicy vibranium in an arms race. Now, Namor, I'm not going to say Namor as they did in the film, because in the last 50 years of comics, I've always known him as Namor. So Namor was an interesting character which strongly pays homage to the comic counterpart. His skill set, his strength, his ideals and philosophies are all based off the real character. And for those who didn't know, Namor is actually Marvel's first mutant superhero, who started in 1939. That's just a year after Superman. The son of a human man and a princess of Atlantis. But here in the movie, his mother and the people were all humans. And it was drinking the herb that changed them into water breathers like his mother. She was expecting him at the time, hence why his skin remained white and he had wings on his ankles. So he is, by laws of comics, a mutant. Now, Namor is an anti-hero. For those of you who are still trying to ask the questions of, you know, who is he and what is his role, he's still very humanized as a character in this film, making his motivations understandable, despite having him as an antagonist in this film. Now, I didn't think the underwater scenes in the film looked great, I gotta be honest. They're not on the level of Aquaman from DC Comics or Pandora's Avatar. It looked very murky and dull, with zero imagination outside of the glowworms lighting. Now, DC did a much better job with Atlantis and Aquaman. It looked like a place filled with underwater richness of their fruits. But this didn't really pull it off for me. But Namor's goal in the movie was to join forces with Wakanda to battle the outsiders, who were never going to stop hunting for that juicy vibranium. I keep saying juicy because that's what it is to everybody else who hasn't got it. And by the end of the movie, Namor pays the price, but he also gets what he wants, leading us into what could be a war that cannot be stopped. Now, the reason for this is we see CIA agent Everett Ross. Everett Ross is back, fighting behind the scenes to keep Wakanda safe. But he's found out by the director of the CIA, guess who's back? Valentina Allegra de Fonte, from the Winter Soldier and Falcon TV series, who's heading up the Thunderbolts. Now, for secretly exchanging classified intelligence with the Wakandans, Ross has been found out by her. So this changes everything, guys. Her new team, the Thunderbolts, at some point will now attack the Wakandans. But the world doesn't really know about the Talokans. And Contessa Valentina is in for a big surprise because the Talokans own the oceans. We saw in this film, even though Wakandans ain't strong enough to keep them at bay in the water. Now, the Thunderbolts team will consist of Yelena Belova, the new Black Widow, Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier, John Walker, the new US agent, Antonio Dreadkov, which is Taskmaster, Alexei, which is Red Guardian, that's David Harbour's character, Ava Starr, who's Ghost from the Ant-Man films, and the new version of Thaddeus Ross, because the original actor passed away, is now going to be played by Harrison Ford, who may be the Red Hulk, considering that they have a version of the super soldier formula inside John Walker's blood, US agent. But guys, there is so much to unpack in this movie. The movie is 2.5 hours long, and it's a breath of fresh air. People sometimes complain that film lengths are too long all the time. I don't. Because as long as it's used to flesh out the story and make it more impactful with great pacing, then I'm all for it. The 4 hours of DC's Snyder Cut is still, for me, one of the greatest films ever made for that reason. And Ryan Coogler uses every second of every minute to tell a story that makes sense. And it's emotional to the core. They may have been actors, but in real life, they lost a family member and a friend in Chadwick. And we all see that. It comes to life and it's organic. The sadness, the tears, emotion. One of my favourite scenes in the movie is Nakia saying that he was king. He was Black Panther to everyone. But to me, he was everything. That scene ripped the soul out of my heart and right through my back. I felt emotions running through me. So strong and so daring in this film. I loved it. The other emotional pulls was Okoye. This is a woman who failed the queen many times. Her husband, T'Chaka, died. Her son, T'Challa, died. And her daughter, Shuri, was kidnapped. It's one of the saddest moments in the whole film. And it shows why you should put little moments into the story like this, because it means so much to the viewer. She was the general Okoye, yet everyone under her watch has died or gone missing. And to top it off, instead of supporting T'Challa, she sided with Eric Killmonger's arrival and treated him like a king, which hurt the Queen and everyone else in Wakanda. And then when Shuri was taken, the Queen had had enough and stripped Okoye of her rank. That too was heartbreaking, because we've all been on that journey with Okoye. Not to mention that Shuri went to the Talokans of her own free will. So that whole scene where Nakia rescued her, guys, was just fantastic. And it shows how different and how powerful Nakia really is. Unlike Okoye, who is the general of the Dora Milaje, Nakia embraces technology like T'Challa, and she uses it to her fullest. I would say, hand on heart, that she is as important to Wakanda as Black Panther is. There's no two ways about it, which leads me on to the ending credits. Now, as the credits roll, Rihanna's Lift Me Up starts playing. But once the song finishes, the viewers are brought back to the beach in tears with Shuri. So, the fans didn't want T'Challa recasted. And they followed the comics by making Shuri the next Black Panther. But even more importantly, when M'Baku was announcing the new Wakanda ruler, he called her Princess Shuri, not Queen Shuri. And this was based off the conversation they had together in the film. M'Baku knew what his role was and how to fulfill it. To be the new leadership until another was ready to lead the African's most powerful nation. And Nakia is part of that. She is a big key to that. Every Marvel fan knows that the movie doesn't end once the credits roll. We always know that you got to stay to the end. But sadly, guys, there is no post-credit scene that hints of a next Marvel project. But there is a mid-credit scene, and a very important one at that. Now this goes back to halfway through the film where we see Angela Bassett, the Queen, visit Haiti to see Nakia, to ask her to rescue Shuri. But we are greeted by Nakia and 3 kids. Now one of those kids makes an appearance to Shuri on the beach at the end of the film. And Shuri learns that Nakia and T'Challa had a son, who Nakia has been raising in secret, far from the pressure of the throne. Now Toussaint reveals his Wakandan name is T'Challa. He's about 7 years old now, showing this film is set about 3 years after Avengers Endgame, and is kind of in line with Thor 4. What this means, guys, is M'Baku will be holding the line until a young King T'Challa is old enough to take the throne. We also see that Ayo, the second in command in the Dora Milaje, is romantically involved with Annika. So that was good for them to show that dynamic. The one thing that worked for me, guys, in the film was Riri Williams and Shuri's relationship, representing a similar exploration of the diversity of Black Panther that we experience with T'Challa and Killmonger. Their relationship in Black Panther was the blood and stone of the film. And I like when Riri asked if she could have the herb too. But remember, the herb only works with T'Chaka's family's DNA bloodline, yeah? So only the kids of T'Chaka and his bloodline will be able to be the Black Panther. Speaking of that, Shuri, using a remnant of the herb that gave Namor's people their underwater abilities, synthetically reconstructs the heart-shaped herb. After ingesting the herb, Shuri becomes the new Black Panther. And normally, you will always meet the previous Black Panther. But instead of seeing her brother, Shuri meets Killmonger in the astral plane, who urges her to seek revenge. Why? Because both of them share the same fundamentals in their mindset and ideals. Shuri wanted to kill Namor, which is exactly what Killmonger would have done. They pay this off too when Shuri goes to choose a new Black Panther suit. She picks up her brother's helmet and then puts it back down, walks past it, and then picks up the one that looks like Killmonger's with the gold stripes, as a sign that she wants revenge. And I thought that was a nice touch. Again, the little things in this movie mean so much. Shuri also bestows the Midnight Angel's armor upon Okoye, which is from the comics, who in return recruits Annika to join her. They are an elite strike force from the comics, and they're the most powerful soldiers in Wakanda. In the comics, When Doctor Doom stole the Wakandan vibranium, T'Challa gathered the Midnight Angels as support to Deadpool's mission to kill Doctor Doom. And they never wore vibranium either, because during the mission against Doom, their equipment was free of vibranium to avoid Doom's control. Again, Doom created something that can track vibranium, which is kind of what they paid off with Riri Williams in this film. Speaking of Doctor Doom, I bet you're all asking, what happened to him at the end of the film? Well, there was one angry VFX artist who leaked the concept art of Doom at the end of this film a few months ago, but Marvel just took it out. And I think that was the right thing to do. One, because it was already leaked, so it wouldn't have been a surprise anyway. And there's also so much going on in this film that having Doctor Doom in there would have only taken away the impact of Namor, in my opinion. We leave the film understanding what Namor's motives and his endgame is. But if you'd have put Doctor Doom in there, that would have totally taken us off the rails, and we would have been focused on Doom instead. So one of the things I liked about the film was the improved music score. I thought it was very impactful, and the hip-hop from the first movie, which I thought spoiled it, in this film it felt more native to Africa. Plus the Rihanna songs were met with such emotion. It really meant a lot to me. But one of the downsides of the films is the average fight scenes. The fight scenes, none of them were memorable in this movie, not a single one. You know, maybe Okoye's fight with Atuma, maybe that was okay. Alex Lavelli, who plays Atuma, said that it took them 4 months to film that one fight scene, yeah, which was for a couple of minutes. So maybe time hurt the action scenes because the film was shot during COVID. So maybe that's just something that they couldn't focus on. It definitely shows up in this film. So I give this film, guys, an 8.1 out of 10. Not as epic as the original, but still a very good film with a solid script. There are two things that I picked up on this that need to be discussed. The first is, why would Shuri ask Riri to leave the vibranium suit behind? The reason is so that the tech isn't stolen. But then why did the Wakandans give Sam Wilson a new suit and vibranium wings in his TV series? So we could say that maybe that's the same thing. But I'm guessing that they must have felt a 19-year-old student in Riri Williams couldn't protect their tech, and whereas Sam Wilson could. So that's probably why they done that. Another thing that was concerning was the Queen said she felt like one day AIs will take control of the world and turn against us. It was a strange statement she made, considering that Ultron already tried to do that a decade ago. Maybe Wakanda was unaware of Ultron's existence, which I couldn't really accept considering they're the most technologically advanced nation in the world. So look, I assume that now Agent Ross is a refugee in Wakanda, just like Bucky was. He could be a main player in the future too, with his contacts and resources. Also, he was in the trailer for Secret Invasion. That had Ross in it too. So what's next for Riri Williams? Well, the suit was working quite well for her, the original one she made. So I'm guessing she's going to go back to making that. But someone will have to jump on helping and supporting her. What is she going to do with this second chance, given that her gifts will make for a good Disney Plus story on her own show? And all I can say is, this puts an end to a very disappointing Phase 4 for Marvel. They had some outstanding movies. I did like Black Panther 2, I enjoyed this film. And obviously Shang-Chi was brilliant. I love Shang-Chi. I have high hopes, so we live and pray. But there's more to come for Wakanda. We have seen Invasion, a Wakanda TV show, the Ironheart show, and Armor Wars. They will all be connected to this film. As for our little prince, T'Challa, where would he fit in? Well, you've got the Young Avengers, a group of young teens which the MCU has been teasing for years now, many of whom are descendants of the Avengers. Wanda's kids, Wiccan and Speed, Hulk's son, Scar, Ant-Man's daughter, Cassie Lang, plus some sidekicks like Kate Bishop in Hawkeye, America Chavez in Doctor Strange 2, and the Multiverse of Madness. We also see the introduction of Patriot in the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show. He's the son of the original. So that's my review, guys, but just a special mention to Letitia Wright. She was in Top Boy, Coming Up, Chasing Shadows, Humans. She's been in Doctor Who and Black Mirror. She's been in the Black Mirror series as well. She's a breakthrough Brit. 29 years old now. Born in Guyana. Came over to London when she was 7 years old. And she opened up about her struggles and her depression. She told Vanity Fair in 2018 that when she first experienced depression at the age of 20, she was in the dark. Yeah, she just went through a dark patch, going through all those bad things. So it's really nice to see her come through this in what would really spark plug her career. I thought this film was on her shoulders, and she took the mantle and ran with it, and I think it was a success. So well done to her for that, and well done to Marvel for giving her the chance to shine like this. And as Brits, we should be proud of her. She wore the flag well for us, guys, and the Black Panther is in good hands. So that's my review, guys. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comment section below, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace, guys. Wakanda forever.